You wake up, you do everything right. You take your walk, you eat your fruit, you follow the advice every doctor's office pamphlet has ever printed, and still, somewhere around the second flight of stairs, your legs tell a different story than your effort does. That heaviness in your calves, that stiffness in your knees when you stand up from the couch, you've probably blamed your age. Maybe you've blamed the weather, or a bad night's sleep, or just getting older. But here's a question almost nobody asks. What if the fruit bowl sitting on your kitchen counter, the one you reach for because it feels like the healthy choice, is quietly working against the very strength you're trying to protect? I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to hand you information your doctor has 30 seconds to mention at your last checkup, if that, because 7 fruits that most seniors eat without a second thought carry real, documented reasons to slow down, portion out, or rethink, not because fruit is bad, but because your body at 60, 70, 80 handles sugar, acid, and minerals differently than it did at 30. Stick with me, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly which fruits deserve a smaller plate, which ones deserve a conversation with your pharmacist, and which ones you can eat without a second thought. Before we get into it, if this kind of straight talk health information matters to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because we cover what actually holds up, not what just sounds dramatic. And I want to know, are you already watching what you eat because of joint pain or leg weakness? Drop a 1 in the comments if that's you. Drop a 0 if you're just here to learn. Now let's get into fruit number 1. Fruit 1. Pineapple, the blood thinner problem. Pineapple gets talked about like a miracle. Bromelain, the enzyme inside it, does have real anti-inflammatory properties, and that's not a myth. But here's what almost nobody tells seniors. Bromelain doesn't just interact with inflammation in your body, it can interact with medication in your bloodstream. If you're one of the many older adults taking a blood thinner like warfarin, or even daily aspirin therapy, bromelain has been shown to amplify those effects. That's not a rumor, that's documented in clinical pharmacology literature on herbal drug interactions. The result isn't dramatic leg pain, it's something quieter and more dangerous. Easier bruising, slower clotting, and in the legs specifically, a higher risk of the kind of internal bruising that shows up as unexplained soreness or discoloration along your shins and calves. There's a second layer too. Pineapple is genuinely high in natural sugar for its size. A single cup carries close to 16 grams. For someone managing blood sugar, especially type 2 diabetes, that spike matters because elevated glucose over years is one of the actual proven contributors to poor circulation in the lower legs. This isn't pineapple poisoning you, it's pineapple adding to a sugar load your pancreas may already be struggling to keep up with. The fix isn't fear, it's portion and timing. A small half-cup serving, and if you're on blood thinners, a 5-minute conversation with your pharmacist about whether bromelain supplements or large regular servings are something to watch. Fruit 2. Bananas, the potassium you might have too much of. Bananas have built a reputation as the muscle cramp cure, and for most people, that reputation is earned. Potassium genuinely supports muscle and nerve function. But here's the part that gets left out of every bananas are good for you headline. If you have any degree of chronic kidney disease, and a significant number of adults over 60 do, often without knowing it yet, your kidneys may not be able to clear excess potassium efficiently. When potassium builds up in the blood, a condition called hyperkalemia, it doesn't cause vague tiredness. It causes real measurable muscle weakness, and because your legs carry your largest muscle groups, that weakness often shows up there first. Heaviness, cramping that doesn't resolve, or a feeling like your legs simply won't respond the way you're asking them to. Add to that the number of seniors taking ACE inhibitors or ARBs for blood pressure or potassium-sparing diuretics, all common prescriptions, and you have a population where a daily banana habit combined with medication can push potassium levels higher than intended. This is one of the few fruit-related risks that actually appears in nephrology guidelines, not influencer health content. If you know your kidney function is normal and you're not on those medications, a banana a day is fine. If you don't know your kidney numbers or you're on blood pressure medication, that's worth asking your doctor about directly, not guessing at. Fruit 3. Grapes, the portion trap. Grapes aren't dangerous. What's dangerous is how easy they are to lose count of. A serving of grapes is about half a cup, roughly 16 grapes. Most people, seniors included, eat 2, 3, sometimes 4 times that in one sitting because they're small, sweet, and don't feel like a lot of food. But that handful after handful habit adds up to a real sugar load, and for anyone managing blood glucose, that unplanned spike is one of the more common, avoidable mistakes in a senior's diet. There's also a smaller, more specific concern worth knowing. Grapes are relatively high in fructose, and fructose metabolism produces uric acid as a byproduct. For most people, this is a non-issue. But if you already have gout, or a history of elevated uric acid, large fructose loads from grapes, from juice, from dried fruit, can measurably contribute to a flare. Gout flares in the lower body are brutal specifically because they hit the big toe, the ankle, and the knee, and that pain absolutely affects how you walk and how strong your legs feel for days afterward. This isn't a reason to avoid grapes, it's a reason to actually measure a serving instead of eating from the bag while watching TV. Fruit 4. Watermelon, the fluid and glycemic double take. Watermelon has one of the highest glycemic index scores of any fruit, meaning it raises blood sugar quickly. What softens that in most nutrition guidance is that watermelon also has a low glycemic load per typical serving, because it's mostly water. The catch is that typical serving assumption falls apart in real life, especially in summer, when a slice becomes 2 slices becomes a quarter of the melon over an afternoon. At that volume, the sugar adds up fast, and for someone with diabetes or prediabetes, that's a real, avoidable spike. The second issue is one almost nobody mentions: watermelon's water content. If you're managing heart failure or any condition with a fluid restriction, something a cardiologist may have specifically told you to watch, a large amount of watermelon is functionally a large amount of fluid intake, and that can contribute to the ankle and lower leg swelling that heart failure patients are already trying to avoid. Again, this isn't about avoiding watermelon. It's about a reasonable serving, genuinely about 1 cup, rather than treating it as a food you can eat without limit because it feels light. Fruit 5. Citrus oranges, grapefruit, and the medication conversation nobody has. Oranges themselves are not a major concern for most seniors. The acidity can aggravate acid reflux or GERD in people who already have it, and orange juice specifically carries a much higher sugar concentration per serving than the whole fruit, since juicing strips out the fiber that would normally slow sugar absorption. If reflux or blood sugar is a concern for you, whole orange over juice is the simple fix. But there's a citrus fruit that deserves real caution, and it's grapefruit. Grapefruit contains compounds that interfere with an enzyme in your liver and gut called CYP3A4, which is responsible for breaking down a long list of common medications, certain statins for cholesterol, some blood pressure medications, and several others. When that enzyme is blocked, those drugs can build up to higher than intended levels in your bloodstream. This is one of the most well-documented food-drug interactions in all of pharmacology, printed directly on many prescription warning labels. It has nothing to do with your legs directly and everything to do with why a fruit that seems perfectly innocent deserves an actual check of your medication list before you make it a daily habit. Fruit 6. Green apples, the acid in the habit. Green apples get eaten as the safe apple because they taste less sweet, but the sugar difference between a green and red apple is genuinely small. You're not saving much. What green apples do have more of is malic acid, which gives them that tartness. For most people, that's harmless. For seniors with sensitive digestion, acid reflux, or dental erosion, which becomes more common with age as enamel thins and gum recession exposes more sensitive tooth surfaces, that concentrated acid can cause real discomfort, and a habit of eating a green apple right before bed can make nighttime reflux worse, which some people experience as a restless, poor night's sleep that leaves the legs feeling heavier the next day simply from fatigue and inactivity catching up. The apple itself isn't the villain here. The timing and the assumption of safe because it's less sweet is what trips people up. Eating it earlier in the day, with a little protein or fat alongside it to slow digestion, solves most of this. Fruit 7. Mango. The sugar nobody portions of the 7 fruits on this list, mango has the most straightforward, least controversial concern: sugar density. A single cup of mango carries roughly 23 grams of sugar, more than most people realize, because mango doesn't taste candy sweet the way, say, a piece of cake does. It tastes fresh and light, which makes it dangerously easy to eat 2 or 3 servings without noticing. For a senior managing type 2 diabetes, repeated high sugar spikes over months and years are one of the actual, clinically established contributors to peripheral neuropathy, nerve damage in the legs and feet that causes tingling, numbness, or a burning sensation, along with the kind of poor circulation that makes walking feel harder and recovery from minor leg injuries slower. This is not a mysterious silent fruit damage. This is the well-known relationship between long-term blood sugar control and nerve and vascular health, and mango, eaten in large, unmeasured portions, is simply one of the easiest ways to undermine that control without realizing it. A half-cup serving, ideally paired with a source of protein, keeps mango's benefits, real vitamin A and C content, without the sugar overload. What this actually means: notice something about everything I just told you. Not one of these 7 fruits is dangerous by itself. Every single concern comes down to 3 things: how much you're eating, what medication you're on, and what condition you already have, whether or not you've been formally diagnosed with it. That's a very different message than these fruits are secretly ruining your legs. The truth is less dramatic and more useful. Your legs aren't being sabotaged by fruit. They're responding to portion sizes that crept up over the years, medications whose food interactions were never fully explained to you, and blood sugar patterns that built up slowly enough that no single day ever felt like the day it changed. What to reach for instead? So what should take up more space on your plate? Berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries are genuinely one of the best choices available to you. They're lower in sugar per serving than almost any other fruit, they're rich in anthocyanins, which have real anti-inflammatory research behind them, and their fiber content slows sugar absorption instead of spiking it. Cherries, specifically tart cherries, have actual clinical research, including a well-cited study out of Boston University showing a measurable reduction in gout flare frequency when eaten regularly in modest amounts. Avocado, technically a fruit, is one of the few genuinely joint-friendly choices on any list because its fat content is monounsaturated, the same category found in olive oil, and it has close to zero impact on blood sugar. Papaya is gentle on digestion and contains papain, an enzyme that can ease digestive inflammation, and pears, eaten with the skin on for the fiber, offer sweetness without the sugar spike of something like mango or watermelon. None of this means never eat pineapple again or banish bananas from your kitchen forever. It means treat fruit the way you'd treat anything else that affects your body differently now than it did decades ago, with the same respect you'd give a new medication. Know your portion, know your conditions, know your prescriptions. That's not fear. That's just information most people never got handed to them clearly. Closing, if you've stayed with me this long, it's because you actually care about staying strong, staying mobile, and staying independent. Not because you're looking for something to be afraid of. And I want to leave you with this: nothing here is about giving anything up completely. It's about eating with a little more awareness than you did last year, because your body genuinely does process things differently now, and pretending otherwise doesn't serve you. If one thing in this video changes how you look at your fruit bowl tomorrow morning, that's the whole point. Tell me in the comments which of these 7 surprised you the most. I read every one. And if this kind of clear, no scare tactics health information is useful to you, subscribe, because there's a lot more of it coming. Take care of those legs. They've carried you this far, and with the right choices, they'll keep carrying you a long way further.